wanted to leave you with this one because we're all in Los Angeles. And so I spoke to Esa-Pekka Salonen when he wrote his violin concerto for Lila Josephowitz. And I spoke to the two of them together. Was it together or separately? But I spoke to both of them about the same thing. So here's a little bit of both of them interspersed. One of the things that Josephowitz requested for the violin concerto was a slow movement. Quote, "It was something I requested and will continue to request from composers," she said. "It may be risky in some ways for composers to do because they can't get too fancy. No fireworks, no crazy things going on in the score, but just something very still and very simple." Josephowitz brought up the idea before Salonen had written one note, he said. "A great player can draw some Salonen said, "A great player can draw some poetry out of one or two notes, just with a subtle change of tone, color dynamics, and phrasing," Salonen said. She felt that many modern concertos don't offer that option to the soloist. Everything is busy and tightly controlled by the composer, so there's no space for individual interpretation. I've had this kind of feeling myself sometimes over the years. I've premiered about 400 pieces so far in my life as a conductor. And for those of you who are young, Esa-Pekka Salonen was for many years the conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and that's what he's talking about. Some of them have been absolute masterpieces, and some of them have been absolute crap. And then, you know, he laughs, a whole lot of stuff in between. So I could relate to this. And then he goes on to say, "I thought about my own works, and I thought that what was missing was a big, slow movement in the sort of tradition of Bruckner, Mahler, Brahms, and Beethoven," he said. "I'm not trying to compare myself to those guys, but in that sort of vein, a long, slow movement that becomes the main movement of the piece, as it does in, say, Bruckner's 7th Symphony or Beethoven's 7th. So that the weightiest emotional and expressive material is in the slow movement. That's what I wanted to do in this case because I'd never done it before." Salonen's slow movement comes at the end of his violin concerto, his heartfelt adieu. "It was written during the time that it really hit me that, okay, my 17 years as music director of the Los Angeles Philharmonic is coming to an end. And is this the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life? To leave? Or is it something that makes sense and is organic?" Salonen said. "I think a lot of that somehow went into the violin concerto. I can't say the bar numbers or anything like that, but when I hear it these days, in my mind, it strongly connects with my last months and weeks in LA. It will always be like that, I think. I was very, very positively surprised by the reception and by the fact that orchestras want to program the violin concerto around the world," he said. "It's very encouraging, and also somehow it tells me that the genre of these sort of big virtuoso instrumental concertos is not over. There's still life in the old horse, and we should keep writing music." Yeah.